Okay, since you only watched the beginning of my videos, Merb, and this video is about you, I'm just kidding. None of my videos are about you, bro. That's some self-centered, narcissistic crap. My videos are about Lane's case. The court case, not you. Just because your face is in it, that's what Shannon thinks. It's retarded. Anyhow, this is what you said about mens rea, and we've all seen Legally Blonde, bro. We get it, all right? But you can't even get to that point. Just watch.
Prosecutor has to prove every element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt.
The prosecutor won't even be able to get to the proving the elements of the crime because there is no crime.
The things that the prosecutor has to prove in a harassment case is intent, mens rea. That's Latin. I know I'm talking to Lane Meyer supporters, and that's a big word.
Here's a word for you, Merb. Material facts in evidence.
The victim was an administrator for a law school. Nothing that Lane Myers contacted her about was related to her being an administrator in a law school.
Wrong. The only thing that he's contacted her in that one voicemail about was about her position as an administrator of a law school. We're just going to assume this is a contact, even though it wasn't. It was an attempted communication to her electronic answering machine. But the material fact is that this voice message was left on her machine, and it is in evidence that she, and you know it's undisputed because she is the one who introduced it as legitimate. So you know it's a legitimate and not a fabricated piece of evidence. And the only subject of this voicemail was to get a hold of her as an administrator of a law school.
I figured since I'm a member of the community and my wife's an alumni of the law school, that maybe I can get access to the materials at the law school in order to fight for justice.
Did you hear that? He said, since I'm a member of the community and my wife is an alum of the law school, I figured that I could get access to the materials at the law school in order to fight for justice.
So I figured since I'm a member of the community and my wife's an alumni of the law school, that maybe I can get access to the materials at the law school in order to fight for justice, since Stacey's all about justice. So I guess I gotta call Stacey next.
That's the conclusion of Exhibit 1.
Are you moving for the admission of Exhibit 1?
Yes, I am. I would like to admit this voicemail.
Any objection, Mr. Myers?
Nope.
And to back up this point, he said, I'm going to call Stacey next. Stacey Jane is the access to justice person who runs that department or whatever. Literally, their job is to give access to the materials at the law school to people who are struggling with legal cases like Lane.
About, I don't know, maybe a minute of the video where he's just smoking drugs inside of a gas mask and then proceeding to misunderstand everything.
First of all, Merb, I haven't been fucked up in years, and weed is not a drug, and that gas mask is fucking awesome. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't think so, but anyways, carry on.
Criminal trials.
Don't worry, Merb. The proof of the non-existent mens rea is coming, okay? I want to address this first. Now, I want to address this thought. FYI, Lane repeatedly doxed his own phone number in several previous videos, saying it aloud on his target's voicemail. Call me back at blah, 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 blah. Okay. When you call that voicemail, she doesn't answer. Nobody answers. Same thing with Matt Walker. They do not answer. They don't have secretaries, so they take their voicemail or their answering machine, and it says, leave your name and number, and we'll call you back. That's the only way you're going to get a call back. And it's the only way they can tell if you're legitimate, if you legitimately want them to call you back, or if you're harassing. If he didn't say his phone number, then it would be harassing if he did it repeatedly over and over, right? But he doesn't. He says his phone number because he legitimately wants to talk to them. Now, Merb, you brought this up. You said judges are unharassable because they have a secretary. Well, guess what? The difference between a harassing phone call and one that is legit is if your intent is to get a call back. And if you intend to get a call back, then you're going to leave your name and your phone number like Lane did, right? Now, why? Explain to me this. Why would Shannon on live stream, knowing that it's live streaming, getting confirmation that she's live streaming to the world, why would she say her own work phone number unless she wanted people to call her, right? Unless her intent was to have people to call that number.
That's the conclusion of Exhibit 1.
Are you moving for the admission of Exhibit 1?
Yes, I am. I would like to admit this voicemail.
Any objection, Mr. Byers?
Nope.
It's admitted. And the phone number that was called, is that a work number or a home number?
That is my personal work, or my work number at the University of Arizona, 520-626-9223.
And what do you do with it?
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 I know, all you guys are still like, oh my gosh, well, maybe she didn't know any better. Maybe she didn't know maybe he was doing it secretively, blah, 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 blah. Well, no, because 5 minutes before this, she's the one who even called it out, so.
The victim.
By Mr. Myers live streaming right now. It's actually part of what has caused so much harassment for me, as well as others. To shoot.
I'm listening.
Thank you.
There's live streaming right now. There's live streaming right now. It's actually part of what has caused so much harassment for me, as well as others. To shoot.
I'm listening.
Thank you.
Now, why would Merb ignore what was said on the voicemail, right?
Was an administrator for a law school. Nothing that he contacted, Elaine Myers contacted her about, was related to her being an administrator in a law school.
See, this is what you call ignoring reality. We just heard Lane's voice on her voicemail in a piece of evidence introduced by her and agreed to upon Lane Myers was asked if he objected. He said no objections. She agreed that it was his voice. And he said, the only reason I'm calling you is to get access to justice and the materials at the law school. Now, why would Merb ignore this? He would ignore it because all he pays attention to is this.
Prosecutor. He did not once ask to speak to me about anything that the law school does. He asked to speak to me about my husband.
When we all heard this.
So I figured since I'm a member of the community and my wife's an alumni of the law school, that maybe I can get access to the materials at the law school in order to fight for justice, since Stacey's all about justice. So I guess I gotta call Stacey next.
That's the conclusion of Exhibit 1.
Are you moving for the admission of Exhibit 1?
Yes, I am. I would like to admit this voicemail.
Any objection, Mr. Byers?
Nope.
It's admitted. And the phone number that was called, is that a work number or a home number?
That is my personal work, or my work number at the University of Arizona, 520-626-9223.
And what do you do with it?
Okay, this phone call was about getting access to the materials at the law school. You heard him say that. How can you ignore that? Then he said, looks like I'm going to have to call Stacey next. Stacey Jane is the access to justice person. Literally the person with the access to the materials at the law school.
The phone number that was called, is that a work number or a home number?
That is my personal work, or my work number at the University of Arizona, 520-626-9223.
And what do you
At the University of Arizona, 520-626-9223.
And what do you
At the University of Arizona, 520-626-9223.
Now, I know some of you people are going to be like, well, maybe she didn't know. Well, she did, because 7 minutes before that, she said this, acknowledging that she knew.
By Mr. Myers live streaming right now. The main points are that by Mr. Myers live streaming right now, it's actually part of what has caused so much harassment for me, as well as others.
How are you going to prove any kind of harassment when she's asking if he needs a tissue and then giving him a little smirk whenever he looks away? Does she look like she's being harassed? She looks like she's doing the harassing, bro, number one. And number two, the whole reason you can't even get to a mens rea element of anything is because you can't even prove the definition of harassment. You can't even prove what he said, even though that voicemail has bad vibes to it. It still doesn't meet the unwanted factor. Look, listen to your friend.
Definition of the word harassment.
Because if he's referring to unwanted, uninvited, and unwelcome words or behavior, that's the definition of the word harassment. Because if he's referring to unwanted, uninvited, and unwelcome words or behavior, that's the definition of the word harassment. Because if he's referring to unwanted, uninvited, and unwelcome words or behavior...
No need to hear all the other words in that definition, because the unwanted, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah factors aren't there. Because, again, according to Shannon's testimony, this is all her evidence and all her testimony.
...threatens, intimidates, or demeans...
Have you ever told him to stop having contact with you?
We've never stopped him. I've been afraid of him.
Have you ever told him to stop having contact with you?
We've never stopped him. I've been afraid of him.
The prosecutor can't even get past that. They can't even get past the definition of the word harassment, let alone being able to prove intent. I get it, man. We get it. You're not talking about him as a criminal. We get it.
So it is always a public interest story. News agencies, actual news agencies, not auditors pretending to be reporters.
First of all, it's 2025, and YouTube news and so-called auditors are reporters, period, constitutionally and actually. And number two, Lane is not an auditor.
Go out and cover trials. They're matters of public interest. And the criminals in them are limited public figures, at least because of their involvement in the
forced involvement
trial in the matter of public importance. Lane Myers, by putting videos out, I could get him qualified even as a public figure.
I was never disagreeing with that. I'm just saying it's forced upon him because it's a criminal proceeding that he doesn't want to be a part of. He wants to get it dismissed and not be a part of it. You know what I mean? And Shannon Walker signed up for this. You know what I mean? She held her hand up and swore an oath that she would be okay with people's constitutional rights. That's what I was saying. I'm not disagreeing with you that he is some sort of public something. I'm not disagreeing with that. The difference is she swore an oath that these things were okay with her, and Mr. Myers is being forced into this limelight by the courts. You know what I mean? That's what I was saying. Well, my theory is that Shannon wanted to be harassed, and here's how I know that. Because, number one, she knows that legal action on her part, and specifically the injunction against harassment, is going to incite people to call her. She knows this. She says multiple different times that she had the opportunity to tell him to stop and never did. In court once, and then again on the injunction against harassment, just to talking make sure to this that lady. People call. She says her knowingly says her phone number aloud on a live stream for the world to hear on purpose, unprompted.
Paper, though.
Of course.
So you're aware that these can sometimes incite as much as they can bring people down, but it will protect you from any third-party contact as well as indirect contact from him.
Is regarding the videos that currently exist, as well as additional videos, which I do think you are correct, this will likely incite more of a reaction. You are correct, this will likely incite more of a reaction. I've never met him in person. I've never had a direct conversation with him. I only know the messages that I receive or the videos. My personal work, or my work number at the University of Arizona, 520-626-9223.
And what do you do at the U of A?
I work at the College of Law.
So I know what some of y'all are thinking. Some of y'all are like, well, maybe Lane just said that thing about the getting materials to the access to justice and asking for help with materials just so he can contact her and harass her, even though it's not a contact, it's an attempted contact. 3 years ago, before any arrest and before any YouTube account, he asked the access to justice lady Stacy for the same help in an email. And some of you are like, oh, he probably faked it or something, blah, 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 blah. Well, no, because Stacey Jane, in her injunction for harassment, tried to use this from 3 years ago, even though the limit's only 1 year, tried to use this and rewrote it, copy and pasted it right here onto this as part of her injunction against harassment, right? So she's testifying that it's legit. It's legit. He needed the help with fucking justice, right? And nobody would answer the phone. Oh, that's another thing. They don't answer the phones, bro. Like, what the fuck? From 3 years ago until today, they're doing the same thing. Emails are not harassing. Look, here's an email that one of your Merbanites or whatever sent to me. It's not harassing. I don't give a fuck. I don't know who it was. I'm not going to bring any legal action because I don't give a fuck. It's a fucking email. You know what I mean? But although it did kind of frustrate me that he said I didn't have a job because I work really hard. And then so I sent them this, which is my tax return. It's like, how did I get this if I don't have a job? You know what I mean? But anyway, whatever. Oh, and Merb, if you made it this far, why don't you tell everybody since obviously you are part of a law firm that sues people, you're obviously somewhat of a civil lawyer. Tell people what the first thing for a lawsuit is. What's the first letter that you send? A cease and desist letter, right? The same reason that somebody would have to tell another person to stop whatever action it is that they're doing for it to even be considered harassment. If they don't say stop, it's not harassment. And if you don't send a cease and desist, you're not getting a lawsuit, right? Those are like, before you go anywhere, before any litigation happens, or before any criminal or any criminal court case happens, you have to say no, stop doing that. And then if the behavior continues, then you got something. But that never happened, right? So you can't even get to any kind of mens rea or intent. And even if you did, I just proved that the intent was to get help and to get access to materials from the law college that the bitch works at. But no, Matt Walker would rather direct his wife on how to use the law as a sword and put somebody in jail as opposed to just telling him to fucking quit it. Seriously, it's that easy. It's simple.